Hey everybody, Nerdy Transformed here again, and today I'm reviewing something a bit special. This is the Transformers RAD Walmart exclusive gift set of either Landfill, or if you prefer, Wedge, Grimlock, Hightower, and Heavy Load. These are the same exact figures as the ones that came out individually in RAD, but they're in different colors, of course, a more unified color set. We'll get that in a minute though. This was a Walmart exclusive on Black Friday back in 2003. Yeah, going through Black Friday to get these figures, which they are a nice repaint, but not worth going through on Black Friday, I would say. Today you can find the whole set for about 40 to $50, so it's a complete set, which I'd say is a lot more worth it. Now, like I mentioned, these are the exact same figures. They are just done in a more unified color scheme that's very similar to what actual construction crew would have, as most construction vehicles are usually done up in yellow and black. And they are having hints of silver. Now, I mentioned we do have Wedge, Grimlock, Grimlock, Hightower, and Heavy Load here. And I will not be covering the transformations in this review, because otherwise this review will go on for like an hour. Especially since I will be covering all three combined forms, which will be a mess. But we'll get there when we get there. So let's start with Wedge here. He was originally done up in orange in the original RAD. Now here he's got a lot more of a bright yellow, or they all have bright yellow, with black actually, they're not really black. They're actually a very dark chocolate brown. It's hard to see, but if you can see the light there, it's a very dark chocolate brown color with some silver paint apps on it. And to be honest, the silver paint apps almost give them like a knockoff look. Strangely enough, like if you know anything about China knockoffs, they love to put random silver paint all over their bootlegs. But looking at him, he does look pretty alright. You know, he's got a silver paint there. He's got a big old oddball sigil right there with a black top there that does stick a little bit. His windows are done in blue, which looks really nice. And he is exactly what you expect him to look. If you're getting this guy secondhand, make sure he has this little, these little pieces here, as these pieces are connected to this little blade down here, and that does make up his weapon as well as his crotch plate in combined mode. Next we have Grimlock, who, very similar to Wedge. He was originally green in like a dark foresty kind of green, or turquoise. Now, once again, yellow, dark chocolate brown, and a little bit of silver highlights. I think the treads actually are black. It's hard to say with this figure. I know the crane piece here is actually done in black. I think the treads are black with some dark chocolate color for the kind of inside parts of the treads and detailing. Blue windows here as well with a big old nice oddbot sigil right there. And yeah, he's pretty nice too. He does have a gimmick where you can see this little piece right here. And if I had nails of any kind, one moment. It's supposed to pop out, but it doesn't want to. But this whole little piece right here is supposed to swing out and kind of form like a claw thing. Mine, even as a kid, always got stuck. I'm not sure if there's a specific switch you're supposed to hit. I don't think there is one. I don't see any. I don't see anything, but I think you're supposed to just grab it, but mine's always got stuck. Yeah, can't get that thing out, unfortunately. But it's a really simple little gimmick. It just pops out and forms like a claw piece. If you're getting him secondhand, these pieces right here that form his arms later, these two pieces, do pop off very easily, as well as the crane piece itself you're going to want to make sure it has, or the shovel piece, whichever you prefer. But articulation-wise in this mode, he does swivel around. And he does have a hinge at the base down there. Has a hinge right here in the middle. And one right here for scooping. So you could actually have him scooping some dirt up if you so wish to play with this like a constructor set. My one complaint with this mode is that it doesn't hold together too well. Plus in the back you just kind of see the kibble underneath, but in the hands like to stick out for whatever reason on mine. But, you know, him and Wedge roll decently. Forgot to show it with Wedge. He does have wheels and his little treads as well. His shovel might scrape along though. Next is Hightower. Pretty nice looking little crane here. Got, once again, mostly yellow. He does actually have some brown shading along the side here. And the others did have this too. They have this like brownish orange shading right here I forgot to mention. But he has a lot more than, say, the chocolate brown that the other two have. So you can see it all along right here, along the top here, and the oddball sigil right there. And definitely heavy along the back up. He's starting to become pegged. Now he does have a couple of gimmicks. For one thing, you actually have these little pegs you can flip out. Like so, to kind of make him a stationary crane so he doesn't roll around. Which is pretty nice, because I believe the real vehicle does that. And of course, this whole piece right here is actually separated, so if you're getting the second hand, make sure he has this. Make sure he has the crane piece here that's all separate, and inside of the cockpit area should be an extra weapon for his robot mode hidden away. So make sure he has all that if you're buying the second hand. And you can peg it into different places. I peg it in the middle. But this can swivel around slightly. The crane can't swivel, but it can go back and forth. And you can technically move this piece, but you're also going to start transforming into its gun mode. But we'll show it off in robot mode. But yeah, decent looking little crane here. He stays together. For some, he was originally done up in red, and my red one does hold together a lot better. Finally, we have heavy load. I've had 4 of these in my lifetime. The first 2 I had as a kid the first 3 I had were all the original yellow versions, and all 2 of them broke with the little chest piece here. The third one broke much later after I couldn't get a return for it, so that stinks. I don't know what it is, but this piece right here is really easy to break. I think it's because it's clear plastic. This little tube right here that holds all this piece together for his chest plate, his head and chest transformation. So do be careful of that. But he has a dump truck here, as you can see, very similar to Hightower with the yellow and the chocolate brown, basically. The entire bottom section of these 2 are basically the same with a lot of remolding. There are differences, but as far as the base mold piece of it goes, it is the same figure, at least on the bottom part, with a lot of remolding for like the arms and legs, and then a completely different top part. Except heavy loads does not separate. The only thing that separates on him is this piece. This is the only piece that comes off. Don't try to pull off the rest of this. That's how you break it. But you can see there is actually quite a bit of stuff going on here. We do have his cockpit right here. I mean, I think it's technically supposed to be like that, but I like that face it forward. And these pieces do come on hinges, so you could have it doing like that, the dump, which is pretty nice. So it's on the hinge right here, and it's on the hinge down here, and you can twist and turn this since it's just pegged in. So that's pretty nice. You can actually get a realistic, dumping motion going. So kids could play with this as theoretically as an actual construction set. And can also do this, but that's meant to be for his weapon mode. So yeah, pretty nice set overall. I like the color scheme going on. I don't really get the silver, really. It doesn't look too bad here, but it does look a lot worse to me in the remote and combined mode. Like I said, it kind of gives that cheap Chinese knockoff look. But to get one more comparison in, here they are next to Power to Prime's Jazz, just to give you a comparison with a current deluxe. Quite a bit taller, but not quite as long, as you can see. Let's get him back out here. And like I said, I will be skipping the transformations for this video, as otherwise it will go on forever. So I'll see you guys with the robot modes. Alright, now we got the whole gang in robot mode. You can see there's quite a size difference. Now remember, these were all deluxes when they came out, and yeah, Wedge here is definitely not the same price as Heavy Load or Hightower, and especially not Grimlock. You see Grimlock's kind of big compared to your guys. Well, more lanky than anything, but Wedge definitely does not make up any bulk. He is much smaller than the others. And to give you an idea about size comparison, here they are with Power to Prime's Jazz, who is slightly taller than Heavy Load and Hightower, much taller than Wedge here, and about a head shorter than, or half a head shorter than Grimlock over there. So let's go ahead and get him back out of the way. And look at these guys. I do agree they look a lot better with the same color scheme going across all of them. And in these modes, they do definitely look like a team. They all have a yellow, brown, black, and gray kind of thing going on. They all have silver faces with blue eyes or visors. It's hard to see from here, but all the visors and eyes are painted blue. And look at him, it's actually kind of funny. Wedge is the only one who doesn't have a visor or shades of some kind. Heavy Load definitely has his eyes a bit more separated, to where he's wearing more of sunglasses instead of a visor, but Wedge is the only one that has just like normal eyes, which is kind of funny looking at it. And you can kind of start to see what I mean about some of that silver paint looking kind of like Chinese knockoff paint. I mean, it's just kind of splashed across here with no real coherency. It's almost like a weird camo vibe they were trying to do. A lot of silver on the legs there. Let's get the light away so you can see that a little better. So you can see, yep, just silver kind of go for the piping detail, but it's also kind of splashed a little randomly, like how the peg holes are like half painted. And no paint on the arms. The original Wedge actually has fists painted silver and some like more of a yellow for his arms to kind of break it up from the orange. But here it's just kind of solid yellow. But the head does look pretty good, just silver for the face and then blue for the eyes. Chest is the same as the top of the vehicle. And he does have his weapon here, which does look a little ridiculous. But you could just, peg it to his back as well if you prefer. So he's a pretty decent little figure. Articulation-wise, his head does swivel all the way around. Ball joints at the shoulders go forward and outward. You could use these hinges if you want. You do get a swivel at the elbow here, and because it's ball jointed, so you also get a 90-degree elbow. You want to get rid of that. He does have a waist, but you have to flick out this little bit that's meant for the combination. But if you flick it out, you do get a waist swivel, which is pretty nice. And you do get ball jointed hips, which go outward, forward, and back. Swivel right above the knee, 90-degree knee. Technically some toe articulation, but the big problem with him is that it's hard to show, but he doesn't have the outside shell to his legs. He only has the inside shell. He has the reverse of what Titans Return Skull Cruncher has, or Skull Smasher. To where if you stand normally, he's not going to stand too well. See, he knocked over Grimlock with him. So what you gotta do is kind of spread his legs outward like so, and just kind of hope he stands. Sometimes even that doesn't work. Especially with these big old shoulder pylons. So we're just gonna set him to the side over here, or not right here so you can still see him. There, right there, because he does not stand too well at all. Especially this remold, which has a little bit looser hips. Next we'll cover is Grimlock. And you can see, the only part forming he really has is much like Wedge, where his weapon comes off, or his vehicle piece. And you can peg into the back to give him a rare Beast Wars Scorpionaut style, which looks pretty good. His problem here is that his crotch does not tab together in any way. The inner pieces here kind of tab together, but the lower area of it just kind of hangs like that. And it doesn't hold together at all. Now granted, the silver paint on him is the nicest, to be honest. His is nice and flat across his whole chest. Nothing really kind of spotty except maybe right down here. And his shoulder pieces there. He's also the one that has a black head instead of a yellow head. He still has the blue visor and silver face, but he has a black head instead, which is pretty interesting. He also looks rather odd. I mean, has the least normal proportions. I mean, he has definitely some, not sure what you want to call it, but odd arms going on. As you can see, the arms only go outward. The elbows, I mean, you can have the elbows go forward, but you're going to have like a claw thing going on. So he had some very odd looking arms, especially with the double elbows. They just kind of hang down all lanky looking. He's the most strange looking. Not quite Bayformer strange, but still quite strange. But I do like the colors on him the most, I think. I do wish his shoulders got some paint, kind of like the original, and I definitely wish his legs got some paint. They're just sitting there just black. A lot of nice detail, but nothing highlighted at all, so it kind of stinks. But he does have some nice piping detail right there. Articulation-wise, he does get a swivel at the head. His shoulders, when you get the little shoulder top out of the way, can go full 360. They can't go outward unless you want to count this elbow joint here that's ball jointed. But, you know, that's ball jointed, so you could go anywhere you want with that. You do get another hinge here. You do get hinges at the hands. The other arm is the same, it's just a little bit smaller and gimpier looking, and the hinge goes outward instead of inward. No waist articulation at all, unfortunately, but it's kind of expected with the transformation. You do get ball jointed hips, so they can go forward, back, go outward. You can use the hinge here if you want. Ball jointed knees, so they can swivel and go back. And at the feet, just kind of some toe movement, but you can use it all whichever way you want, which is pretty nice. It can be a little tricky to get him to stand, but not quite as bad as Wedge, especially if you bring the shovel in to kind of balance him out. Gives him a little bit of shade, but, you know, it definitely helps with his balance, especially with his lankiness. Heavy Load and Hightower, there we go, are basically the same except for their weapons. And also Hightower is the only one that requires any kind of major part forming. The others, it's just for their weapons. Him, the entire top half of the vehicle has to unpeg from here and tab in back here instead. So he is the most part forming out of all of them. But looking at him, he's got the blue visor, silver paint. I like how the head looks the most. Don't really like the chest here because the silver is very much splattered, just splattered on there. And you get some silver down here. Feet aren't really painted at all, so nothing too crazy about him. But he does his crane does turn into a giant rifle, or a plasma rifle of some kind if you prefer. And as I mentioned, inside of his cockpit is a little tiny pistol he can hold, which is the easiest thing to lose out of this whole set. But, you know, he's pretty well armed. Articulation-wise, swivel at the head. Ball joints his shoulders, but they can't go outward really. They can kind of wiggle. But they can fully rotate, and they can kind of use it to go backward on that. Ball jointed elbows. So rotation, 90 degrees. Hands also get 90-degree move or 90-degree kind of bend there, so you can count that as an under elbow if you want. No waist articulation. Wedge is the only one blessed with that. Ball joint to the hips. Can't really go outward because this little stem sticking off. Not sure why they did that. No swivel, but you do get 90-degree knees. And you do get all kinds of toe movement because there's 2 hinges there. Be careful with these on him and heavy load. They're very fragile and very easy to break. So don't force it too much if you can help it. Unfortunately, it requires it for transformation constantly, but be as careful as you can. Typically, you're going to want to pick that one form you like and probably try to keep it like that. Heavy load is much the same. He does have his big old dump piece in the back. That can be used as like a shield. Can also be like a claw weapon if you press down the thing here. You can also hold it from up here instead if you want by like using it as a shield. He has the exact same articulation as Hightower. He just looks a little different. He has a much more broad, a much bigger chest piece sticking out as you can see. His head is done up quite differently. He has quite a nice little smirk while everybody else is kind of frowning, which is pretty nice. He looks like he's having a good time. Kind of looks like if Jazz was a Constructicon or something. I really like how this helmet looks. I think it's got the nicest looking head out of them. I really like the shades he has going on. The rest of him is basically the same as Hightower, just different details. But they do have different feet. Hightower kind of has these little toes going on, while Heavy Load's more flat-footed. Sorry, I'm getting the names all mixed up. So overall, they're a decent set for 2001. This is back when before Classics happened, and this was actually before Armada and just after Beast Machine, so this is when they were still kind of figuring out what they were doing with articulation. I gotta say, they got a decent amount of articulation. I do wish they had knee swivels for Heavy Load and Hightower, but I'll take what I can get, really. Yeah, I do think it's a nice set. I just wish, Wedge could actually stand. Which I can get him standing. Let's try to get him sitting for the last shot, at least. There we go. No, wait, no, you're not going to lean your own. Stand on your own. Good job. So, I'll see you guys with the first of the combination modes, as I will be going over all 3. Yay, me. Alright, finally back. Or for you guys, it was like a second or 2, but for me, that was about 5 minutes of transforming. And to be honest, after all that, I don't think I'm going to show the configuration where Heavy Load is the body, because right now I have Hightower as the body and Heavy Load and Grimlock as the legs. And just to give you guys a good idea of how that looks, let me get back here. You see, that's what the full body looks like. And you can kind of see what I'm talking about with the cheap Chinese paint as if we look at Landfill. I don't know if this actually has a name in this configuration, but Landfill with Hightower as the body. You can see Landfill's head actually does have this like cheap silver paint once again all over it that's chipping away really easily. And I do believe he also has blue eyes here, but it's harder to tell because his eyes are a little bit more sunken in. Nope, I think they're actually black. I think for this one they actually are done in black. But you can see this is what I was talking about with the weapon you're going to want, because it does form the kind of crotch plate. And the reason I'm not really planning on doing Heavy Load's transformation to this is because it's basically exactly the same as Hightower and Heavy Load, as I mentioned, are pretty much the same figures. Only real difference is instead of this big kind of tower piece in the back here where I have like the gun sticking off to kind of form an overhead gun, you'll have like just the big dump just kind of sticking off the back to form like a back plate in a very Bruticus-esque fashion. And that's how I usually transform them. Whoever makes up the body or the chop body has their weapon overhead, while Landfill holds the the legs legs And it does make for a rather tough-looking robot. I mean, if we bring in Power to Price Jazz here again, you can see he's about the same size as 2 Deluxes. So you can see, I would say he's probably close to leader class, I would say. He definitely has the bulk of the leader class. He's definitely quite a large guy. I mean, I would hope so with 4 Deluxes all combining. He definitely has the most interesting transformation scheme. I didn't show it off, but if you do disconnect it, you can see the 3 of them form this little triangle in the middle, and then this piece, just you have to kind of put it in at an angle, and then actually turn it to lock it in place, and then peg them in. And it's the same with Heavy Load. Grimlock's is actually a little bit different. Grimlock, I think, has the best looking torso mode, but the least locked in together. Heavy Load and Hightower definitely locked together a lot better. The one that sucks about them is they do end up with some kibble between their extra pieces and their arms that just kind of have to hang off back here. I mean, you can't really close them up or anything. They're just kind of stuck hanging back as extra panels back here. Though you do get some cool detailing on the back. And this piece just likes to pop off whenever it feels like it. Really is not a good connection on there. But it's a decent try considering I believe this is one of their first tries after Beast Machines and Beast Wars to make a new combiner. Grimlock really does not lock together the best in any formation, as even as a leg you can see these pieces are coming apart. He doesn't peg together. He's got very loose connections for whatever reason. Even on my original, it's not just because he's a repaint. Even on my original, he's kind of loose. So that does sting. But he does make for a decent looking robot. I really like how the treads in the front shovel of Wedge here do make some pretty nice looking shoulder blades. He really is kind of leaning on heavy load right now. But articulation wise, his head does swivel. It does go all the way around, but he's not really going to see too far of all this junk back here. Treads can move up and out of the way if you want. You can also kind of, I've seen this in official stock photos, have a formation more like so. If you want something more like that, but to me that just kind of looks like Wedge is sitting there. Plus it kind of undoes the connection really badly. Let me fix that real quick. You really are just going to want to kind of leave it like this. Like I said, he's not the best put together combiner. He really does come apart much too easily. But back to the articulation, the arms are just the legs from high tower and heavy load, depending on which one you're using. Oh, he doesn't peg back together right. So they are ball joints at the shoulders, can go out that far. No swivel, but you do get a 90-degree elbow. And you could technically say you have finger movement, hence why you kind of have toes for his feet, because it does mean High Tower has kind of a finger look for his combined mode, so you could use his hinges however you want. There are 2 hinges. And the thumb has 1 hinge. Oh, that fell off. You also have these wheels that flip out. You can use to detach weapons if you want. You really can't turn the hand so there's no swivel, so you can't get like a normal looking hand, but this is really the best you're going to get is kind of a 5-fingered claw. Down here, the connector pieces are ratcheted, so they are ratcheted outward. Can ratchet forward, but it can't go anywhere because of the piece here, but it can go backwards. You do get a swivel, and you do get a 90-degree knee. It is the same on Grimlock here, too. He has the exact same connector piece, even though he's a different figure altogether. Only difference with him is that instead of... Actually, I have it all twisted around. There we go. And you can, of course, twist them around like so. Not him. Only Grimlock can do that, actually. To where you can kind of get outward movement. Oh, and the ball joint just came out. Like I said, loose connections on Grimlock. He does not want to hold together at all. Oh my god. I'll be honest, Landfill is a bit of a mess like this. I am really trying my best here. I'm trying not to make this all sloppy, but he really does fall apart this much when you're kind of messing with him. He really is kind of meant to combine and just leave him that way. But let's go ahead and flip him around. Grimlock's going to be on top. I'm not really going to cover heavy load because he really is the same. Alright, now we finally have Landfill with his Grimlock configuration. And I would say this is probably the most cohesive out of the 3 combinations. And also in a way the least cohesive, but we'll get to what I mean in just a minute. Try and kind of see what's going on with his arm. Now, the reason I say it's most cohesive, for one thing, look at the legs. With how much heavy load and high tower mirror each other, it does make for a pretty good look. I mean, bring in Jazz here one more time. Once again, about double the size of a deluxe. You can see, even though they have different outsides, they do have very symmetrical leg formation, so it does help to kind of make this one cohesive. His entire bottom half look really cohesive. And come up here, Grimlock's legs do become the arms, much like with heavy load and high tower. But since his legs are formed from the treads of his construction mode, his scooper mode, whichever you want to call it, it actually does line up pretty well with the treads from Wedge's shoulder that form Wedge's shoulder blade pieces. You can already see what I meant by the other not cohesive part. To where the shoulder blades, the arms kind of match up to kind of make one cohesive looking torso. It actually looks like the arms are coming out of the shoulder blades. The problem with that, however, is when we come to the side and the back, and we see the connection. Now, with the other 2 figures, they had 2 peg holes to where the 2 pegs on either side of Wedge's flap here connected to. And you would think they would do that here too, because there are 2 peg holes on the leg flaps here. But instead, it pegs into this little tiny peg sticking out here, which does seem like it should work, but it doesn't hold as well as the double peg does. And there went the little scooping piece, which does pick in the back of Grimlock's head, ironically. Plus, most of Grimlock, other than the arms, don't really have a place to go on like with heavy load and such. They just kind of stack up back here and don't really cohesively lock together. Heavy load and high tower, they all were just kind of what they were in vehicle mode, but at least they all kind of felt more cohesive. Even the arms hanging down kind of at least form some detail. Here, they're just kind of folded up to where it looks less kibbly, and that's it. And then, let's get started on the arms here. If we move the shoulder blades out of the way, you can see what I mean. They're just hanging out there. They don't peg into anything. I am not kidding. And I didn't change the transformation up. I'm not doing this on purpose to give them a weird look. They are just kind of the arms are just hanging out on these little skeleton pieces. These long struts that form Grimlock's crotch, basically, in his robot mode. Just hanging out there. I looked it up. I tried everything I could think of. There's nothing that really you can do to lock the shoulder to wedge here, or lock it to anything else for that matter. You can fold them up higher, but basically what they want you to officially do is just have them hanging out here. Now, like I said, when you have the shoulder blades out and you have the arms in the right place, it does look very, very good, except for the crotch plates still want to pop off. There. Oh, there we go. It does look very, very good like that. But just like with Air mode, he starts having a lot of flaws when you actually trying to start playing with him. But he can hold his weapons. You know, there are little peg holes on the inside of Grimlock's hands here, to where he could hold a weapon like so, even though the ball joints in his arm are very weak. That is your flaw of Grimlock. He has ball joints and not ratchets in his legs, so they are not as heavy duty as heavy load or high tower are. Now, I do think they look best like this in this configuration, but it's definitely the least playable, which is kind of where it kind of goes back and forth. And let's see if we can flip this around to kind of get this better. I prefer just pegging the weapons to the bottom of the arms here and just kind of have them hanging underneath. Same with heavy loads piece, just kind of peg it to the bottom here, flip the little thumb piece out of the way so it's not blocking it. And actually, you might have to keep it flipped out for this one. And you gotta keep it flipped out. And you can kind of just... guess he's not gonna hold it. Alright, fine. Hand spread open. Just peg. Alright, there goes wedge. See, I have barely touched him and never went wedge, already disconnecting. Now, this kind of happened with showing the combination with high tower at the top. But it's already happened like 3 or 4 times just the time that I've been trying to show you guys the transformation, the combination. So I'll be honest, Landfill, and this kind of goes for all versions of him, is a bit of a mess. I do think he looks really good with this, where they have unified colors here, a unified color scheme to make them look like one big cohesive robot, and he does look very nice. But he is a major, major mess as far as the combination goes. No matter who you have for the legs and who you have for the top, you're going to have issues no matter what. Now, if you really wanted to get a really good one, I would just say get like 2 heavy loads and then have high tower form the torso or something, or vice versa, whichever you want to do it. If you want to get something a little bit more cohesive, that'll take Grimlock out of the picture, who's the mess in combined mode to begin with. And even the originals would have a unified color scheme, because then they'd be red, yellow, orange, and it would still kind of work. Articulation-wise, his arms, the legs are the same as before. You know, you got the knee, you got knees, you got hips. You can't use the hips to go forward, but they can go outward. They got swivels here. You can technically say feet movement because of the wheel things down here, forming his feet and heels, but they really can't do much. Only real difference is the arms. You do get full swivel. They can go outward. You do get full articulation in the elbow. And you do get finger movement technically with Grimlock's little feet pieces. So, pretty much for Landfill, if you're going to have him in Landfill mode, put Grimlock on the top and try not to touch him, just let him stand there. Which really isn't good because he's meant to be a toy. He's meant to be played around with. Even as a kid, I really didn't like combining them because they were just a mess to me. They really did not feel it didn't feel nice to play with them in this mode. I played with them in individual modes, to be honest. Whew, I'm sorry guys, I am so out of breath. This review has taken so long. What I recommend you guys doing, if you do want them for combined mode, go ahead and get this version because I do think it looks the most cohesive. If you want the cartoon colors, of course, then go with the cartoon version. But don't expect too much from the combined mode. These guys really do work best as their vehicles and as their individual robots. And even then, they have a lot of flaws. So, do I recommend this set? Well, it's going for about 30 to 40 bucks. It might be okay at that price. If you're going for cartoon accuracy, definitely go with the original cartoon versions. This set is nothing. If you have the originals, don't get the set. It's not worth the extra money. The cohesiveness of it's really nice. I do like how they look as a team together on the shelf, but it ain't worth it. I'd rather just have the cartoon colors. The weird silver really doesn't work for me, and even the unified color scheme really can't help this combined mode. It's still just a bit of a mess. Sorry, Landfill. You look really cool. You look really cool in the cartoon. You look cool in person. But the moment you start picking them up and moving them around, you start to see all the flaws and all the just ick with him. The only thing I can think of to fix him is to super glue all the pieces together, and I really don't want to do that because a combiner should be able to hold together on its own. So yeah, I don't recommend Landfill. I do recommend Wedge, Grimlock, Heavy Load, and Hightower. I think they're really decent figures on their own, even with all their flaws. I just really don't recommend the Landfill combination. Don't get them for the combination, get them for the individual figures themselves. If they don't appeal to you as individual figures, they really won't appeal to you in their combinations. So this has been Nerdy Transformed. I hope you enjoyed this review. And I hope you have a great day. And by the way, I'll be moving to North Carolina the next week or two, so it's going to be a little while before you see more reviews. See you guys soon.